I've been using Linux for more than 20 years. I installed my first distribution from floppy disks. I compiled kernels by hand. I spent entire nights troubleshooting drivers that didn't exist, hardware that nobody supported, documentation written in a technical English I could barely read back then. And in all that time, more than 2 decades, I never seriously thought about an alternative to Linux. Never. Not for a single second. Linux was the alternative. Linux was the answer. Linux was the way. Until a few weeks ago when I came across a small project on GitHub called Franco OS, an experimental operating system released under the GPL, running on a microcontroller that costs a few dollars. And it doesn't use the Linux kernel. This is not a revolution. I'm not selling it as one, but it made me think. And when something genuinely makes me think, it's worth talking about. There's a narrative that the free software world has been telling itself for 30 years, and I've been telling it right along with everyone else. Linux is freedom. Linux is the alternative. Linux is the opposite of proprietary software, the opposite of Microsoft, the opposite of Apple, the opposite of corporate control over your system. And that's true, or at least it used to be. But if you look at what has happened to the Linux ecosystem over the last 10-15 years, with intellectual honesty, without the ideological filter that sometimes blinds us, you see something far more complicated. You see System D, an init system that within a few years became practically universal, not because the alternatives were technically inferior, but because Lennart Poettering worked for Red Hat, and Red Hat has enough weight to push its choices onto the entire ecosystem. The distributions that resisted became niche exceptions: Void Linux, Devuan, Artix, all perfectly respectable. But niches, you see Wayland, a protocol that took more than 10 years to become usable, that broke compatibility with existing applications, that created fragmentation between different compositors, each with their own de facto proprietary extensions. And that in the meantime left us with years of regressions that X11 never had. You see Snap, you see Flatpak, both born from the same obsession with the universal package format, software that runs everywhere without dependencies. But Snap is Canonical's, and Canonical made it mandatory in Ubuntu without asking anyone. And Flatpak is Red Hat's, through the Free Desktop project. 2 solutions to the same problem, built by 2 different companies, incompatible with each other. Both convinced they're right. You see Rust, a language with real, concrete merits that I don't want to deny. But you also see how its adoption into the Linux kernel became an ideological battle, with pressures that drove out long-standing maintainers, with a dynamic that looks more like a political takeover than an organic technical evolution. Linux is still free software. The code is still there, readable, modifiable, redistributable. But the Linux ecosystem in 2025 is an ecosystem governed by power dynamics, by corporate interests, by technical decisions made not only on the basis of technical quality, but on the basis of who has the most influence, who has the most paid developers, who carries the most political weight in the community. That's not necessarily absolute evil, but it's not the purity we tell ourselves it is. At this point, someone is already typing the comment, and I already know what it says. BSD exists. Yes, that's true. BSD exists, and it's a concrete, serious, technically solid answer. FreeBSD has a history almost as long as Linux, an excellent port system, and an architectural coherence that most Linux distributions can only dream of. OpenBSD is probably the most secure operating system you can install on x86 hardware, with a security philosophy that is almost a way of life. NetBSD runs on hardware you didn't even know existed. BSD is there. BSD works. BSD has been used in production for decades, in firewalls, in servers, in embedded devices, even in your iPhone, because Apple's XNU kernel derives from FreeBSD. But BSD has never challenged Linux for the position of mainstream alternative operating system. It didn't do it in the 90s when it could have, and it's not doing it now. The reasons are complicated. There are historical reasons tied to the legal battles of the 90s, cultural reasons, ecosystem reasons. But the result is that BSD, while being a real and respectable alternative, is not the answer to the question I'm asking myself. The question is not, does a technical alternative to Linux exist? The question is there the possibility of something new, something that isn't a Unix heir, isn't a derivative of a derivative of a derivative, but a system that starts over from scratch with a different vision. Let's go back to the project that triggered all of this. Franco OS is an operating system written by Mikhail Matveev, published on GitHub a few weeks ago under the GPL. It doesn't use the Linux kernel. It doesn't use the new core utils. It doesn't use systemd, doesn't use Wayland, doesn't use Flatpak, doesn't use any of the things we've been talking about. It uses FreeRTOS as the base for task scheduling, and it runs exclusively on the RP2350, the microcontroller inside the Raspberry Pi Pico 2. At this point, it might sound like just another embedded firmware project, but it isn't. Franco OS has a desktop environment with overlapping windows, a taskbar, a start menu. It has a working window manager with drag to move, focus management, Alt-Tab. It has a terminal emulator with multiple concurrent instances, each running its own shell. It has a graphical file manager with icon and list views, with cut, copy, paste, and navigation history. It has PS2 support for keyboard and mouse. It has DVI output at 640 by 480 pixels. It loads and executes ELF binaries directly from an SD card. This is a complete operating system, not a tech demo, not an interactive screensaver. An operating system with a shell, a file manager, a desktop, and it runs in 520 kilobytes of RAM. Let me say that again, 520 kilobytes. Your browser right now is probably using more than a gigabyte of RAM just to load this page. Systemd, on the most minimal Linux system you can possibly build, occupies tens of megabytes. A base installation of any modern Linux distribution starts at gigabytes. Franco OS does everything I just described in less than half a megabyte of RAM on a chip that costs less than €5. This doesn't mean Franco OS can replace your desktop system. It can't. That's not what it was built for, and that's not the point. The point is the proof. The demonstration that when you write software without compromise, without dependencies accumulated out of laziness or political compatibility, without layer upon layer upon layer of abstraction that nobody has ever questioned because it's always been this way, you arrive at results that seem impossible if you only look at the mainstream Linux ecosystem. Franco OS immediately made me think of another project, Serenity OS. Andreas Kling was an engineer at Apple. He worked on WebKit for years. Then he went through some personal difficulties, entered rehabilitation, and when he came out, he decided to write an operating system from scratch as a form of therapy. Alone, without the Linux kernel, without GNU libraries, without taking anything from anywhere. He wrote the kernel, the file system, the graphics toolkit, the web browser, the terminal, the IDE, the network stack, the C libraries, everything. The result is a system that looks like it came from an alternate universe where the 90s never ended, in the best possible sense. An interface that recalls Amiga OS or an old Unix workstation, coherent, clean, without the visual cacophony of a modern Linux desktop. Serenity OS is not a practical system for daily use. That's not the point. The point is that Andreas Kling proved that a single person with enough determination and skill can build an entire functioning operating system from nothing. Every line of code written with intention. There are other projects walking the same path. Haiku OS carries forward the BOS legacy with a minimalist and coherent approach. Redux OS experiments with a microkernel written entirely in Rust, with a radical security vision. Plan 9, the Bell Labs system that never got the success it deserved, still survives today as open source through 9front, with a small but intellectually serious community. None of these are Linux. None of these are the next big thing in the commercial sense. But all of them, in their own way, carry forward something that Linux has partly lost, the purity of intention. And so I arrive at the question this video wants to raise. Is it possible, in 2025, for something genuinely new to emerge? An operating system that isn't a Linux distribution, isn't BSD, isn't a fork of something existing, but something built from scratch with a precise vision? A system obsessed with lightness like Franco OS, with the completeness of Serenity OS, with the architectural solidity of BSD, with the open license of Linux? I think yes, and I think the conditions for this exist today in a way they perhaps never have before. The reason is what I described at the beginning. The Linux ecosystem has become large enough, complicated enough, compromised enough to create a void, a space for something different. When an ecosystem becomes an empire, even an open empire, even an empire with good intentions, it always leaves a void at the edges. And in that void, interesting things grow. Franco OS won't fill that void. Serenity OS probably won't either, but something might. The profile of what that something could be is clear in my head. A kernel written from scratch, not a Linux fork, not a BSD derivative, something new. Obsessed with simplicity, every feature added must earn its place, must prove it's worth the cost and complexity it introduces. With a security model designed from the beginning, not bolted on afterward as patch upon patch. Without a company controlling it, without a single maintainer who can be bought, without power dynamics that turn technical decisions into political battles. Something that, when you install it, gives you the feeling that Linux gave in the early 90s. That feeling of looking at something that shouldn't exist, that shouldn't have been possible, but is there, working, clean, with a precise idea of what it wants to be. I don't have the answer. I'm not telling you this operating system already exists. I'm not telling you it's about to arrive. I'm not telling you that someone is building it right now in a garage somewhere. I'm telling you that Franco OS, a complete operating system running in 520 kilobytes of RAM on a €5 chip, reminded me that the question is legitimate. That Linux is not necessarily the only possible answer forever. That the Unix philosophy, the real one, a program does one thing and does it well, simplicity is a virtue, complexity is a cost, is still alive. Maybe not in the mainstream Linux ecosystem, but it's alive. And as long as it's alive, there's the possibility that someone will pick it up and build something new on top of it. I've used Linux for more than 20 years. I'll keep using it. But for the first time in 20 years, I'm looking out the window with genuine curiosity. And for me, that's already enough. See you in the next video, and may Linux be with you. Well, for this one, it's better to say, may Unix be with you.